Hello and welcome to Shape the System, where we find and tell the stories that help people to rethink the way the world works. We interview people from all over the world who are helping to change our systems for the better. Shape the System is an independent podcast with support from KPMG High Growth Ventures, who help ambitious founders and their teams scale up for success. More about KPMG High Growth Ventures after the interview. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hey everyone, hope you're well. A little bit of an unusual episode this fortnight. We had the good fortune of interviewing Jimmy Halfcut, which is not actually his real name, but as you'll find out in the episode, it stands for something that's happening on his face, which you'll have to visualize. And you're going to have to visualize a bit more. We actually did this as a live interview on stage at a Conscious Space event that was held over the 13th and 14th of March in Sydney. They were kind enough to have us on. It was a wonderful event. We got, great response from the interview. So it's all about biodiversity. You're going to find out all about the mission that Jimmy Halfcut and the Halfcut organisation have in buying back the Daintree Rainforest in Australia, and a model that could actually be taken all around the world. A super fun interview, a few visual gags, which you're sort of going to have to work with, but a really wonderful story. So hope you enjoy it. And as always, if you've got thoughts or ideas for other people you think we should be interviewing on the podcast, always happy to hear those intros. Just get in touch with us via any of our social channels. Email me at vt@shapethesystem.org. All right, enjoy this episode.
Thank you, everyone, for coming through for the last session of the afternoon. My name's Vincent Turner, and I'm joined by Jimmy. We'll get to Jimmy in a second, and we've got a little bit to cover today. I host a podcast called Shape the System, and Jess and her team and Winnie, I think she's out there somewhere, were kind enough to invite us to come along and to do a live podcast interview. So if you do enjoy conversations with amazing people who are rethinking the way the world works, we have an episode every 2 weeks. It's available on shapethesystem.org or wherever you get podcasts, because that's everywhere. And we're going to dive straight in. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the other guests at some other point, but today we're going to talk to Jimmy about biodiversity and why Jimmy has half a beard on his face. I just think importantly for this visual, for anyone who's not sitting in stage, can you just give people a proper turn of this? So if it's not clear, it's a bit like that scene out of one of the Batman films where the guy turns over and his face is half and the other half. And there's a whole story behind this, and we're going to get to that story, but we're going to start with biodiversity first, because everything that's happening here is in aid of what's happening out there with respect to biodiversity, which I think is something a lot of people want to talk about. So firstly, let's start with, why is biodiversity important? I know that sounds like a stupid question, and I'm starting there for a reason. Talk me through it.
Well, I think, as we know, without biodiversity, we don't exist. We're not here without it. I think that's pretty much the simple answer to it. And when half the world's forests have already been destroyed, hence half the beard, if you haven't, that's why we do this, half has been destroyed. And even 50% of our plant species globally have already been destroyed. Honestly, without biodiversity, we don't exist, and obviously all our other sentient beings on the planet as well.
Okay, and so getting to what happens, if you see a part of the world where there is a massive degradation of biodiversity, and we can use the Daintree as an example or somewhere else, what's practically happening either within that system or on the ground or in adjacent to that system? What actually happens when we lose biodiversity?
Yeah, well, look, I think a great example would be the Daintree and also the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. Only human beings decide that we will put them in a circle and say, well, that's World Heritage and that's World Heritage. We know they coexist. We're very good at putting things in boxes and circles, and the reality is every property we save in the Daintree, that's providing more nutrients for the Great Barrier Reef. And vice versa, the Great Barrier Reef, guess what? 50% of the Great Barrier Reef is now dead as well since 2016, but that's also protecting the Daintree.
Interesting. So just to use that example, where you have loss of biodiversity or loss of the Daintree entirely, this actually leads to a degradation of the barrier reef itself directly related to that loss?
Yeah, well, look, this is what incredible scientists are showing. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a cheeky ratbag disruptive activist to get people to take action on the climate crisis we're all living live. But I think the interesting thing is the reports they show to us, they sort of say, look, that one property you just saved has 271 endemic species, and actually we just found 2 we never found before. So this is where when we talk about this, a deep ecology and biodiversity, I mean, it's shocking to think that 2/3 of the lowland Daintree have been open for development.
And so when you and I had a chat a couple of weeks ago talking about today, one of the things you said to me, which I found quite interesting, was we actually said, you almost challenged me. You said, Vince, you've got to come up here and see this. And I'm going to go up there in late April. I've accepted the challenge. But what I'm interested in, where's that coming from? As in, like, what's the experience of, say, the Daintree as an example? Because I think in this environment, especially up there...
Concrete jungle, yeah.
Thank you. Kind of detached from what that feels like. Please describe for me and for everyone else what it's like being in the Daintree forest.
Has anyone been to the Daintree here? Show of hands. Cool, about half. So, I mean, the people who have been there, we know it's just extraordinary, isn't it? But it is a bit shocking. For me personally, I found it a bit confronting to go in there and actually go, my gosh, there's full-on cattle paddocks in here. My gosh, there's full-on development in here. And, I think what it is you fall in love with the place. It's 180 million years old, they think. They don't even know. The world's oldest rainforest, right next to the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. So I think what it is it's, for me personally, I just fell in love with the place. And not to mention the mighty southern endangered cassowaries and all the Bennett's tree kangaroos and all the other wizard, flora and fauna. It's just incredible. It really is. And it's, for me personally, I just can't believe what we are doing in the world's oldest rainforest. So it's a calling.
And look, normally in these interviews, we sort of start with the problem, talk a bit about the solution and get to your backstory. But while we're here on the Daintree, I actually want to sort of land on this. How is it that you've found this to be the calling? Like, did you just end up there on a school trip and decide I need to save this place, or rode a cassowary? What happened?
No, I definitely didn't ride a cassowary. That would have been probably lethal.
I'm sure it's illegal. Don't do that, by the way.
Yeah, don't do that at home or in the Daintree. No, look, we saved rainforests in the Amazon in Peru in 2019. So we raised nearly $500,000 doing the Halfcut campaign. And obviously we had the horrendous drought, horrendous fires that we were all forewarned about, and then the pandemic. Oh, here we go, heaps normal. That's sweet. Definitely not me. There we go.
Thank you. That's perfect.
Thank you, good sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Heaps Normal.
I think these are non-alcoholic zero. Thanks, Heaps Normal.
Cheers.
I think that's perfectly fitting. Cheers, mate. Yeah, so after the horrendous fires, we then kind of went, well, look, what can we focus on here in Australia?
Right.
And we went, for what I feel absolutely better, we weren't all flying everywhere and putting more emissions into an already on fire planet.
Sure.
And it just made sense that with such a tangible outcome for $2.50, we could save a square metre of Daintree Rainforest, like Gondwana land rainforest for life.
Right.
And, it's $2.50, right?
Yeah.
So we ended up during the pandemic saving 7 properties.
And it was the size incredible. Of these properties? How big is that total massive area?
Yeah, so a hectare, which is probably the size of this area I'm looking at maybe.
10,000 square metres, 100 by 100 metres, sure.
So this is how many, so we ended up saving 33 hectares, the size, let's just say, an estimate of this whole area.
Right.
So, and when I say we, it was all the other incredible people who took action and went, this is out, half the world's forests are gone, what the flip?
Right.
So, yeah.
So, look, I want to actually come to this now because this is probably a bit of the crux of what it is that Halfcut's doing. I'm not going to talk about the method yet, we'll get to that. But the simplicity of this idea, if I've got this right, is that if you want to save something, just own it and then don't let other people do stuff on it. I know I'm making that oversimplistic, but is that essentially the outcome of the funds that are being raised?
Yeah, so look, irresponsibly, in the late 1980s, 2/3 of the lowland Daintree was actually relinquished for development.
Right.
1,100 hectares.
Right.
So really, with this model, we're going in and we're buying back real estate.
Right.
So the reality is anyone here could go on right now and go, actually, that looks all right, but the problem with that is what we find is then people go, well, I'll develop on it.
Right.
I'll put my 725 square metre little shed or hut, and from our experience and what we've seen is actually a hell of a lot more than that. Unfortunately, we're very, very good at overstepping our boundaries and, developing and removing more. So,
right.
I mean, there's just a real easy example. We just protected another property that cost us $25,000 for 1 hectare.
Right.
So it is very achievable. It's very tangible. But the process with this is then we gift it back to the lowland Daintree traditional owners, the Kuku Yalanji Bamba people, which is just spectacular. That then is managed with the Jabalbina Yalanji Aboriginal Corporation. And through that corporation, they expand it or go through the Cape York Peninsula, World Heritage Wet Tropics, that actually expand Daintree National Park. So we're actually expanding the world's oldest rainforest which irresponsibly of the government at the time when, hey, no, you know what, let's turn this into, the next Wonderland.
Right.
Crazy, right? So, yeah.
Perfect. We can probably leave that on the Gold Coast. There's a few things there I want to come back to. The first of those was maybe this is the wrong word, but the price of the land. You just said $2.50 for, what was that?
1 square metre.
1 square metre. Okay, so that doesn't sound like a lot. Like, what I'm saying is that I think people might be surprised by how much land up there you can save with the amount of money that's being raised. Can you just sort of give us the quantum for that firstly? And then I want to come back to the stewardship of the land, which I think is super interesting.
Yeah, sure. So basically per property, it's different for every property. And we just figured it out. On average, it's about $2.50, which I think most people can relate to.
Right.
Half a bad coffee, whatever.
Depends which city you're in, but sure.
I mean, for us as Halfcut, we're like, we're dreaming. We'll just get every Australian to donate $2.50, and actually we could buy the rest of the Daintree back.
Is it that order of magnitude? Is that about right?
Well,
25 million people, $2.50, 50 mil buys it?
Right now, we've strategically mapped out 207 properties that are of high conservation value, that are currently under threat, that could be developed right now. I've actually going up there this coming Wednesday to see a property that's basically be vandalised. And they've gone beyond the recommendations. And what happens to them? Sweet FA. There's Douglas Shire Council don't do anything. There's just nothing happens.
Right.
So for us, for me personally, it kills me because the amount of work we all put in, 90% of us volunteers, when we actually can prevent that, and we know it's $40 million to buy back the rest of the strategic Daintree. Why don't we do it yesterday or this week?
Right.
In the scheme of things, the money that's out there, it's not a lot of money, but it is a lot of money. But the outcome is forever. It's for life. It will never be, unless the government decides to remove World Heritage status, which Tony Abbott tried to do with Tasmania and the Upper Florentine back in 2016 or whatever that was.
Right.
But I don't think this would happen again.
Okay, and you used an interesting word there, forever. I want to use that as a loop back to the stewardship. Help me understand this model, because I feel like this idea of taking ownership of something, as in from whoever was going to put the vandalism and the development on it, and then giving it back to someone who has known that land or has stewarded that land is probably definitely the right word. How does that model work, and what's the relationship then between, how's the flow work, I guess is the question.
I think the very first and foremost thing that we did that I think we're most proud about is developing that trust. I mean, I'm a white bloke walking around with half a beard because I'm passionate about conservation.
Right.
But first and foremost, it is developing that trust with traditional owners. And all we literally did is said, hey, look, we're actually kind of good at raising funds. We want to buy these properties, but we want to gift them back to you to manage. And then the really thing that I get a buzz out about this is not only are we able to heal their culture, because we've got to remember that was stolen off country.
Right.
So we're able to heal, not we, but we're part of that process to allow healing, not only of culture, but also of the land, because they have the knowledge for 70,000 years.
Right.
I don't. And but even a step further than that, we're actually able to employ rangers through the Kuku Yalanji Aboriginal Corporation. We're employing the Eastern Kuku Yalanji people, the traditional owners, to manage the land and to do the healing process. So,
and I guess that was my question, was that what does that stewardship look like? It sounds like the land is held in some beneficial trust, who knows, whatever, insert mumble here. But then you're saying to this organisation, we're not best placed to manage this, or know what to do with the land.
And never wanted to. We just literally wanted to say,
you should do that.
We will purchase it through incredible, generous people who take part in our campaigns.
Yep.
And all we want to do is rightfully gift it back to the traditional owners.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and look, yes, we do get people then going, oh, how do you know that Aboriginal corporation doesn't then decide to develop it or go along there? Everything is in such a brilliant place right now, written down, T's crossed, dotted, I's dotted, to basically say, look, that is not going to be the case. They are we're in an alliance.
Right.
It's like tree shyness. No one's above, no one's below. We're just tree shyness. If you don't know what tree shyness is, Google it up. Tree shyness is where, you're not above someone or below, and it's what trees do themselves in nature. So that's how we've looked at it as an alliance. So between Halfcut...
I'm sorry.
Hey?
I haven't heard of tree shiners, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Google it. If you've got your phone out, we've all got them. Google tree shiners. It looks beautiful.
Who knows of tree shiners, by the way? Am I the only one here who's never heard of tree shiners?
Oh, there you go. There we go.
Okay, cool. Okay, no, I just wanted... I was like, oh.
Yeah, so that's how we look at it. It's a wonderful alliance. No one's above, no one's below. We're working in a harmonious relationship for the Daintree and for the traditional owners.
Okay, good. I think we've laid the scene. I want to get to the beard. Been dying to ask this for a while. I mean, look, obviously there's this direct linkage between half the rainforest and half the beards, but there's some inspiration that came to what the beard is doing in the act of raising money, and I want you to break that down a bit for people.
Yeah, so originally I had a large beard. Surprise, surprise.
You still have a large beard.
It was like Ned Kelly style. And when me and my partner and co-founder, when we found out half the world's forests were gone, we're like, flipping what? What are we doing? You know, like
Right.
there was lots of halves going on there. Like half the Antarctica was melting, half the world's forests are destroyed, half of our plant species are extinct, and hey, we've got half a chance of getting this climate crisis under control. So look, for me, I was like, I've got nothing to lose. Let's see if I cut the beard in half to make that metaphor and representation that half the world's forests are gone, to start a conversation about conservation.
Right.
And that's literally what happened. And not surprising here, mate. My partner, she raised more money than me. So go the ladies. Work. Happy International Women's Day. Sorry?
Why do you think that is?
I just think they're just great and better at it than men. We do. And then it's like, yeah, hey, look at me. You know, next.
Move you to action. Got it.
No, but and that was what was genius. It was the women and the children in the schools that all came on board that started braiding their hair, or half makeup, or half clothing, or we had one lady eat half a tub of Ben & Jerry's ice cream for 31 days.
What did she do?
She ate half a tub of Ben & Jerry's ice cream for 31 days for the half-cut challenge. So it was fun.
Yeah.
And people were like, shit, this is fun. Oh, sorry.
That's fine, you can do it. I'm probably going to do 3 or 4
kids,
more,
I said
don't worry about
shivers. But yeah, it was one of those things where, you know, it allowed people to do it their way.
Sure.
So that was what was cool about it,
And that's really interesting. I guess in looking at the halfcut.org and Jimmy Halfcut, I've only ever really taken it literally as to... In fact, I nearly bought a razor today because I was like, maybe we can do this on stage.
Should have.
Yeah. Tell me the function of this. So there's a challenge where someone says, I'm going to do the half tub of ice cream for a month, and you're going to give me money. Like, let's break this down, how you turn half an idea into, or an idea about halves into money.
Totally. So, I mean, look, we followed the models of other incredible charities who do peer-to-peer fundraising.
Right.
So, I mean, examples, Movember, World's Greatest Shave, and go, well, hey, if they're doing that for cancer and mental health and all the rest of it, well, let's do this for the planet's health, which is ultimately all our health.
Sure.
So we just replicated models that have shown great track record. I mean, Movember, I think they've raised $1 billion in 18 years of operation. $1 billion. If that was $1 billion for conservation, the groundwork we could do, the blueprint of the Daintree that we can do with other traditional owners, or the regeneration we must get on with, which is why we're part of the Trillion Trees Initiative to rewild the Earth's rainforest. But yeah, so that was the model, how to replicate what they did and bring on the great people and get them to nominate and take part, and take action.
And so at a practical level, what happens is someone or an organisation says, we're going to run a challenge of some sort involving halves, whatever the half fun ice cream. I love that example, so I'm going to go back to it. And for X number of days, presumably 30 days in most cases?
So for the males, they would try and grow any furry, hairy ecosystem on their face.
Sorry, an ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. Well, that's how we literally look at it. It's an ecosystem, right? So that's what they would do. And then in the month of August, people could then either go, the first day of August, I'm going half cut. And that's what worked during the pandemic. People going onto Zoom calls going, what the flip have you, what is this? What have you done?
Right.
So it started the conversation. But then again, and the women and the children and all the rest of it, they either braid their hair for the month, or it was just one real big day of action, August 31st, which became International Half Cut Day, where people all over the world were doing it. So that was great. It just moved beyond Australia, and people were like, hey, this is great, I want to do this here. We're like, go for it.
Yep.
Let's make it happen.
And then what happens when you have this challenge is that someone does this thing, but there was, when I was talking to you about this a couple of weeks ago, you talked about Bank Australia, who are obviously one of the sponsors here today, and going to give them a plug for that reason. Yeah. But also, they're heavily involved in one of your challenges right now, I believe. And there's I wouldn't say benefit's the wrong word, but there's some kind of circular benefit to them for not only helping to raise money for this, but also for them. Can we unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, so like all of these incredible businesses that are here, like we wanted to work with other ethical businesses. So it made sense to reach out to a Bank Australia who gave us a $20,000 for dollar match giving program. In 24 hours, that got smashed, and we raised over $45,000.
Right.
By the end of the campaign, it became $150,000. Right. So all credit to Bank Australia. Yes, they did raise half of our fundraising, but then our other incredible fundraisers, they raised the other half.
Right.
So, but for us, what was brilliant is then we created a divestment campaign. So off the back end of Half Cut, with everyone going, right, we've saved this property, we've saved this incredible property, what's the next step? And we said, well, look, in 15 minutes or less, you can actually engage in a divestment campaign, which we called the triple switch for Earth.
Yeah.
So divest your bank, your super, your electricity. And in 15 minutes, you know that you're not investing in deforestation or fossil fuels or animal agriculture and all the rest of it. So that was the back end. I guess you call that the circulating economy.
Right.
So we sent our supporters to go and then line up with a Bank Australia or a Nova Community Energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that resulted in them actually getting a whole bunch of people who probably wanted to be customers of Bank Australia, in this case, being customers of Bank Australia as well, right?
Totally. And that's what I think that's the powerful, what we've done is quite, it is a circulating economy of ongoing, positive outcomes as well. So, yeah.
And I guess I'm trying to understand a little bit more those. Like I've often observed, and I think it was said on the panel here before, a lot of brands don't really know how to engage, right? You get a company that is not purpose-led, and then they try to attach purpose. They're not sure how to engage or what purpose to have or even how to execute something that might, create some unity around that. Is this providing kind of an outlet for that? Like Bank Australia obviously do a bunch of stuff as an example, but you've had a bunch of other brands as well. How has this represented a way for them to be part of a narrative and to take action within a narrative?
Well, I think a lot of businesses and everyone here is totally aware we're in this climate crisis and we've all got a carbon footprint. And I think for a lot of these businesses, we were able to say, well, look, we can actually provide you with a carbon credit to go carbon neutral and another buzzword, carbon negative, but then also a water model. So we've developed a water cycle model where, of course, hence the name, rain, forest. Rain, 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 forest, 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 right? So the whole idea was to say, well, let's really get on with that serious regen. Right. And, in 20 years, well, not even 20 years, in 3 years, we have an established canopy. And it's basically off it goes. It's on its own deep ecology, rainforest, and it's going away.
And so if we just take the idea of doing a challenge and cutting half, some of this is actually about enabling a pathway for organisations to actually buy back forests. And
totally,
primarily because they want to, but also to develop some kind of.
I mean, I have businesses right now who giving every sale $2 to save a square metre, or they're giving $1 to establish one rain. Yeah, so that's what's been incredible, because then you are bringing in like-minded communities, like-minded people, and what we've found is people are actually genuinely hungry to make a difference.
Yeah,
they want to be known, they want to know. Well, we were part of that, right. And not even that, come and see what you've saved and get hands on. That's what we love. We love people going up there and they email us and go, Jimmy, we saw the properties we saved.
Right.
We went and planted the trees with the Kuku Yalanji people, and they just get inspired and go, look, it's rare to find a charity where not only are they walking the talk, no pun intended, but you can actually go and see the tangible outcomes.
Right.
And I think, that's, I think, what draws in other markets to want to work with us collaboratively. And I was saying to you before, mate, I'm like a little tree or, a tree, and I'll try and find all the other great trees and tree shyness. And because, that's the thing, we need to collaborate. We need to do this quicker. And that's how I genuinely feel about this. We just got to really connect and do it super fast.
Beautiful, beautiful. I do want to come back a little bit to, and we touched on it before, but there's an arc of a story here as to how you ended up with half a beard on your face. How long have you had that on your face, by the way?
My partner told me yesterday, I think it's 4 years I've looked like this.
Really?
4 years.
Just can we just go down this for a little bit? Are there any practical challenges of having half a beard on your face? Of any kind?
To try and get an avocado at the shops, you just forget it. Even to try and just walk down.
But I mean, is Face ID working when you open your phone? Are there basic things on a day-to-day basis that don't work properly?
No, not really. I thought I could get away with all that facial recognition with the AI. Yeah, I'm going to be the only guy who can get away with this. Not the case.
Hold on. Yeah. But what, have you had that? We obviously haven't had to travel in the last 12 months, but please take a passport photo. No one said, I'm sorry, sir, that's not acceptable.
No, you're right. Actually, I can't get, not that will be
an issue.
Yeah, right now with the whole pandemic. But I couldn't actually get it. She said, I think you have to remove that.
Right.
I went, I can't, because the donors have donated and I've got to walk the talk for another 3 more years. So it'll be 7 years until we've accounted for all the donations.
Okay.
but actually, the worst thing is I forget I look like this.
I'm not surprised.
And then, I'll get someone going, and I'm like,
what are you looking at?
And then I'm like,
that's right.
This. Right. I know now why you're panicking. I think I'm going to get a QR code and just put it on the side of my face permanently.
Just so people can
just
look
so
it
they
up.
can come over and go, this is why I scan and find out.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Well,
makes
just
sense.
do it on a T-shirt. Might be easier than on your face. I think you've got enough going on your face.
Yeah.
Okay, so I get the connection of the beard to the Daintree, but I'm still curious as to like, at what point you woke up and said, this is, like, I'm still trying to understand that personal narrative a little bit more,
totally.
rather than just, we decided to do it.
I mean, look, my mother who's here, big kudos to you, Mother. How are you?
Third mother for today. Round of applause.
I haven't seen her in... Hello, Mother. I think it was like, if I haven't seen you in 2 months, so if I don't come and see you, I'm going to pinch you for a month.
By the way, she lives in
good.
Sydney. This isn't a COVID-related thing. She lives in the area. Not an excuse, my friend.
So, look, I think a bit of nature and nurture, mate. Like, we like us all, we've seen horrendous bushland being destroyed.
Right.
This happened to us. We had the M2, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, a motorway. So my mother was one of the lead community organisers at the time, which wasn't even a word then, but it was just exhilarating and exciting to see community come together, traditional owners come together, but then devastating to see what we lost, and we did lose.
Right.
And what was replaced was a motorway when there was 400 to 500-year-old Sydney blue gums that, was endemic. It's a threatened and endangered species now, destroyed literally in 15 minutes by bulldozers, Right. So I think part of it was definitely my mother, and love her to bits. She's like my best friend, and that journey's been spectacular. I'm very fortunate to have that. So good on your mum, love her. And I think the other part of it was, I think when you're constantly seeing destruction to local environments and global environments, and it's happening at such a rapid rate, and we know the consequences of that. And I was, as I said, fortunate enough to be being educated at a young age to absorb all of this. And, very privileged as well. So then I looked at it and went, we've got to step it up and break down so many inappropriate systems where, she'll be right, mate, don't worry about it.
Right.
She's just dropping leaves in the gutters. That's just a tree. Bugger it, mate. Like,
just on that note, by the way, where does Australia sit in terms of conservation of traditional rainforests? Are we like...
Oh, we're horrendous.
Are we horrendous?
We're the only developed country, the top 11, and we're coming third for deforestation globally.
Hold on. Can we just slow that down?
There's 11 countries on the hotspot for worst deforestation.
Right, and we're number 3.
We're number 3.
We're actually on the podium.
Only developed country.
On that one.
And we're the number 1 for mammal extinction. I mean, the list just goes on. I mean, look at what's just happened with the koala legislation. I mean, it's just appalling.
What do you think that is, by the way?
Sorry?
You just mentioned before about the Australian kind of she'll be right attitude. Is that what's going on here? Is it a apathy that's doing this, or is there something else that's happening, do you think?
Well, I think at 200...
Get as political as you want, by the way.
Yeah, look, I think at 240 plus years of invasion, we've just got on and done whatever we've got to remember that there was a pride in destroying rainforests and cutting down our forests, because that was allowing for agriculture.
Right.
As we know, 80% of all global deforestation is animal agriculture.
Right.
So not only do we have a deforestation issue, we have an eating issue, which is why I'm a proud vegan with a B.
So what's a vegan?
I don't do meat and dairy, but when I was an ag science teacher, I did apiary studies. So my whole philosophy was out bees. Well, there's no anything really. So vegan with a B, B-double-E.
Super slow today. I'm really sorry about this.
Vegan, yes. I'm sorry. It's probably my shocking Aussie accent, mate.
I can't hear you through half a beard.
Yeah, half the problem. We've got a horrendous track record and a continuation of a horrendous track record. I mean, don't even get me talking about open cut mining and coal seam gas and Adani and the Pilliga and Northern Territory with, Origin Energy. It's just, we really should be the clean, green destination for the planet. But here we are just still reaping absolutely unnecessary havoc on this gem that we have.
Yeah. And, I mean, in some respects, the Daintree has kind of been the focus for you because of it being at the apex of the things we need to... it's hard to say, well, the place where the open cut mine is less important than the Daintree, but you sort of have to make that choice and decision. Is that how you landed on the Daintree?
Well, look, it's like bite off more than you can chew sort of thing, right? It was, how do we engage people first? This was the nice visual disrupting, yep, we get it.
Yep.
But then we wanted to give a real tangible outcome.
Right.
When we're dealing with governments, state, local, state and federal,
sure.
A huge amount of lobbying and work goes into that. And it is an absolute slog. And I did that for 4 years.
Yeah.
So my prior job was lock the gate. I was a Sydney coordinator, supporting traditional owners against coal and gas and farmers.
And this was 4 years ago before the beard, is that right?
No, I was still half cut.
Right, okay.
Yeah, incredible. What other organisation takes on another brand and looking like this? But again, for me, it was all linked to the water cycles and the aquifers being absolutely destroyed.
Sure.
And again, what replenishes our aquifers? The forests.
Right.
This isn't rocket science what we're doing. So, which is, as I mentioned before, we're part of that Trillion Trees initiative. So if you don't actually want to do cutting your hair or colouring or half makeup or whatever, We've just launched a fitness challenge where you do 10 push-ups, 10 squats, 10 sit-ups every day, and every $1 someone donates to you, we establish a rainforest tree.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think there's a lot of ways you can take the challenge. I think that pattern is good. It's tired and tested, and it's not an ice bucket challenge that after a while you're like, okay, we've seen enough ice buckets. Like, I could happily not see one of those again.
And the water wastage, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
A finite resource, yeah.
So that makes sense. The thing that I guess I'm interested in, this is why I asked the question about the arc of the story, because I think you grew up in an environment where this issue was important and there was an awareness of the issue and an education of the impact of not dealing with the issue and some of the stupid questions I asked right up front. What do you do about the 98% of people who haven't grown up in that environment, not with a mum like yours who wants to chain to trees? And like, how does that, the rest of us, connect in that way? Or how do you reach them, I guess?
Well, this is the thing. It's you got a crystal ball.
Sure.
And this is why it's part of it. It's like, well, how do we... For us, it was like, well, let's just create a visual disruption that gets people coming and asking us, what are you playing at? Like, coming in through security. Right. I mean, if I got $2.50 for every time someone said, you lose a bet, mate.
What did they say?
Lose a bet, mate. And I go, well, we're losing a bit of a bet with Mother Nature right now, but hey, that's why we're here to turn that around. And look, sure, it's using these tools like social media to try and engage more people, but hey, we don't have a huge social media. We don't.
Right.
It's 2 or 3 or whatever, right? It's small,
right?
But it's the outcome we're achieving. So, but going back to your question, how do you engage them? Well, it's back to that whole education, but then it's also back to our broken media. You know, no billionaire should own our media.
Right.
You know, Rupert. You know, that's where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Or billionaires.
Yeah.
You know, like we need so much more transparency and people to be reading what's actually going on, both in their local area, state, and global.
Right.
And there's just such a... We know it's not in their agenda.
Yeah.
It's not in their agenda to stop deforestation, animal agriculture, and mining. That's
Right.
where they make their bucks.
And then I guess where I normally get to in this type of interview is to try and understand what the big kind of the challenge is from here. So from my observation, been going at it for 4 years, somehow managed to wear that for 4 years, which is amazing in itself. Have raised how much in total?
Oh, we're just probably under $800,000 now.
Okay, so save that divided by 250, so $2.50, so huge impact already.
Yeah.
And a fair swathe of the Daintree still to go. So, like, what's the thing that moves you from there to here in this whole activity and exercise, at least just with the Daintree? I know it's bigger than that.
Yeah, so, I mean, think big, because what have we got to lose?
Sure.
Everything. Everything, that's right. So, look, obviously we would love for this to be a Movember or a World's Greatest Shave, where, you know, the movement generates the individual to take individual action with a tangible outcome that makes them go, I was part of something good. I did something. Instead of all the apathy and talking about it and whinging about it, right. It's, well, we've got something for you, but now maybe you invite your friends.
Right.
Or you be a bit cheeky and disruptive and rock up to your next parents' meeting with half a beard or half a hair and
right.
Be a bit of a disruptor, because really we need such a disruption right now for the climate crisis. We need everyone being like, well, we are going to do our absolute most.
Right.
Utmost. Yeah.
Probably got one more question for me, and then if there is questions, we'll take some. Like, what's your challenge to people here who've perhaps maybe heard about you for the first time today or heard about this for the first time that you want to ask here? But also, we're recording this so people who are listening post this.
And so, what was the challenge?
Yeah, like if you meet someone and they say lost a bet, mate.
Yeah.
Then there's clearly a story that happens, or you challenge them.
Well,
What's
after 4 years of doing this, I'd like to think I'm pretty quick at it now.
I was going to say that's
that's
an odd question.
Yeah, it's like the elevator pitch, you know.
Sure.
I get it down in 10 seconds.
Okay.
And look, really, it's the people who I love and gives me hope are the ones who go, oh my God, can I get a photo? I want to donate now. Where do I do it?
Right.
And, I'm with people right there and there who might give $2.50, or other people who have given $5,000.
Do they just literally hand you the money?
No, through the platform.
Okay, that's
yeah.
Oh, no, I wouldn't be surprised.
No. So it's all tax deductible. It's all done through the platform.
Right.
And for me, I think that's where that individual feels empowered. We as a charity, as a not-for-profit, feel hugely empowered because it allows us to get on with what we do best.
Right.
And, but in saying that as well, my gosh, if anyone works with charities or done work without or not with charities, we are desperate for your help. Don't ever think us charities, we're doing okay. Like, we are all... I've been a volunteer doing this for 7 years prior to this.
Right.
Only of December last year, not-for-profit wages, here we go. But, I guess what I'm getting at is, like, if you've got skill sets, like, we are screaming for them. Right. You know, if you want to support, you might not want to do this.
Right.
I don't blame you, right?
Well, you may not be able to do that.
Or able to do it, but if you're like, hey, I'm really good at digital or comms or copy, or just even want to just phone call some of our incredible supporters, there's actually one of our fantastic supporters. Elizabeth, how are you, legend? Woo! They're the things that help us grow. Like, I would like to think in such hectic times we can all come together be a bit more massaging and kindness of one another and put that kindness into the environment.
Right, beautiful. All right, if there is any questions, I'm happy to take them, but don't need to take questions. It's really up to you. And if you have not got engaged already with Jimmy Halfcut and the entire halfcut.org movement, I suggest you go and check it out. And also, I know this sounds odd, but because it means getting on a plane, which I think is part of the problem, but maybe offset that. If you haven't been to the Daintree, I'm going up there in a couple of weeks, and I think that's the challenge from my perspective, is to go and understand what's at stake and what to lose.
Totally. And look, honestly, if it touches your heart, it will touch your mind, is my philosophy. I think people come back with a burning desire when they see what's going on to go, but hey, we have a fun, tangible solution to this, and we can do it. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. Like, we can do it, and we should do it, and it should have been done yesterday, but we're going to do it now.
Perfect. Amazing. Well, thank you, Jimmy.
Always, mate.
Super good talking to you.
Yeah, you too, mate.
And
Thanks,
thank you for those who stayed around for this afternoon.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Shape the System. As usual, if you'd like to suggest a guest, someone that you know who's helped change a system for the better, please go to www.shapethesystem.org, click on the top right-hand corner, then click Suggest Guest. Make sure that you click subscribe so that you get the new episode. Shape the System is an independent podcast with support from KPMG High Growth Ventures. Connects founders to the services they need along their journey. Whether you are looking to refine your strategy, mature your finance function, prepare for a capital raise, expand abroad, or simply comply with regulatory requirements, they provide you with the support you need to drive your business forward.